What is up, jabronis? JJ back here from Run Pure Bets. Back talking a little football on a little divisional weekend Sunday. We got Bucks, Rams, Chiefs, Bills. What more could you ask for with some of these games coming today? As you can see, the clown gear is back, at least in semi-fashion. I've already said this to you guys before. I don't mind wearing the nose after a few bad videos, or a few losing videos for that matter. However, when I wear the nose, it just like impacts the way I talk. So either way, we're halfway there. So a few bad looks from me yesterday. I'll tell you this, team totals for me, especially with underdogs, have been extremely profitable for me this year. The problem has been these playoff games. I don't want to say they've all been low scoring because they haven't. Some of them have shot out a bit. But man, I just underdogs are not scoring with any level of efficiency like they were during the regular season. Now, sure, cold weather has had its impact, so I can't argue that necessarily. But it is what it is. I liked Boyd over his receiving prop. I even said in the video that for me it was a decision between him or Uzama. Uzama, of course, goes nuke. And actually, every pass catcher for Cincinnati went nuke. If you bet Joe Mixon's rushing, a receiving prop over, that smashed, Higgins smashed, Chase smashed, Uzama smashed, and of course Tyler Boyd is the lone man out. But it is what it is. I think that you'll find in sports betting, when you run really good, it almost seems like you can't lose a game. When you don't run, when it's the opposite, almost feels like you can't cash a bet. But needless to say, even like the 49ers yesterday, had some decently sustainable drives, and the Packers didn't put any pressure on them to score. It felt like the Cowboys game all over again. So that's back-to-back weeks where I've been on the Niners in that fashion with their team total, and they still, win outright as an underdog despite not going over it. So, a little tilting on that end. But look, at the end of the day, cue the tiny violin, folks, right? We can cry and cry and cry. Everybody does it. So, but you just move on, right? Today's a new day, and then you just look to snap back. What's up, JB? Buzzer beater, Yago, Fader Lay, Bobby, and F and Bob. So who would have thought Rodgers wouldn't have thrown one touchdown? Yeah, it was an interesting game. Don't get me wrong. Of course, the cold weather affects, aspects of the game. I'm not saying it doesn't. But I just think the offense were extremely inefficient. And let's be honest, Aaron Rodgers was far from efficient. I know firsthand, and I was kind of glad to see a replay of it from somebody who posted it on Twitter. That 3rd and 11 bomb he threw to Devontae Adams was so head-scratching. First of all, if you're calling the plays, and I assume Rodgers didn't call that play, I assume it either came from LaFleur or their OC. I don't even understand in the least why on a play like that you have the best short to intermediate route runner in the NFL in Devontae Adams running a post pattern 30, 40 yards downfield on your biggest 3rd and 11 of your season. That didn't make any sense. Look, I didn't even have the Packers as a bet, so don't even be like, oh, well, you're just salty because you bet the Packers. I didn't bet the Packers. I just didn't understand it. These are the same people that make excuses for Aaron Rodgers in these big games. It's his defense or it's his special teams or this sucks, whatever. He scored one touchdown. When it wasn't even from his arm. One touchdown against the 6th seed in the playoffs. And this is becoming a pattern. It's hard to ignore at this point, right, folks? To me, the Brady Rodgers, it's not even a conversation anymore. It doesn't even make sense. So, look, Rodgers is a great quarterback. I just think in these pressure moments, I don't think he fits the bill. It's kind of been proven time and time again. And it's nice to see San Francisco continue to advance. A team that I've been high on all season long. They're healthy. They're as healthy as they've been anyway. It was nice to get some of their guys back. So it'll be an impressive playoff game. Think about it. If the Bucks win today, the 49ers match up really well, in my opinion, because the Bucks are not as elite as they've been stopping the run. And would you look at this? Ryan Jensen active for the Bucks. All week I got to hear about how this offensive line would not have people play, and it looks like the Rams are the team with more injuries. I guess I'll get to that in a moment. But I just, like I said, I don't understand the consistent love for Aaron Rodgers. I get it; he's a great quarterback. It's just in these big moments, he just continues to piss down his leg. So, for me, today you'll get Brady, and sure, Brady's been dealing with continuity. But isn't it funny? Like, the people that don't like Brady will consistently make the claim that, yeah, this is the game he loses, or this is the game he loses. And I'm sure these people will victory lap when it does. But woof, these people have been taking L's for a long, long time. And like I said, like I've been saying for years, at some point these folks will be right. But in reality, I think it's just, it has to be more. This can't be random. Like, there has to be something Brady sees, whether it's offensively, defensively, that he helps get his team better prepared for. Obviously, he's not the coach per se, but you could just tell how prepared these guys are week in and week out. And he's got enough weapons. He doesn't have the best weapons in football right now with the injuries he's dealing with, but he has enough weapons. And let's be honest. I just wanted to make this claim. If Brady wins today against the Rams, okay, why on God's earth would Aaron Rodgers win MVP this year? Why? I mean, that would be absolutely insane. So we'll see. Well, I guess we'll slide right into here, right? Rams, Bucks. I should go without saying, I like the Bucks today. I laid the 2.5 midweek. I know it's been fluctuating between 3 and 2.5. I got a 2.5. I laid the Buck 20. If Stafford and crew come into Tampa Bay and win today, it is what it is. If Stafford has a huge game, I know these two played earlier in the year. To me, this is a whole different avenue. Now, real quick, I'll address that comment, F and Bob. If you continue to make these types of excuses for quarterbacks, where his special teams let him down, or the dude offensively did almost nothing against the San Francisco defense. Despite let's be honest, despite having a broken play go for 80 yards to Aaron Jones, 80 yards, okay, broken play where your running back is streaking down the sidelines for 80 yards, with that play included. 1 touchdown on the board for the Packers offensively. I don't know how best to tell these people. Yes, the special teams block punt touchdown helped the 49ers a tremendous amount, especially as they were struggling to move the ball on offense. But let's be honest, you're telling me the Packers shouldn't have done more offensively last night? I mean, it's crazy. How could you think they shouldn't have done more offensively last night? Sure, that play helped, and that play was a big spark for the 49ers. But why are the Green Bay Packers even in that situation? Why are they even in it? You're telling me it's the fourth quarter, the 49ers have scored 3 points, and this game's not over with the quote-unquote league MVP and the number 1 seed in the NFC? Yeah, so I'm not on that bandwagon. I'm over the excuses people make for Aaron Rodgers. His defense, this, his special teams, that. Dude had 3 points and 1 touchdown. Fourth quarter, NFC big NFC game where he's the 1 seed against the 6 seed at home. So yeah, I'm past the point of defending Aaron Rodgers in these types of games where he shits his pants. So I'm sure next year it'll be the same thing. He'll have another big season if he even continues to play football. Look, he is a tremendous talent, super, arguably one of the best arms ever in the game. He definitely has a stronger arm than Brady. There's no doubt there. But as far as decision making, it's just not there in critical situations. So look, we'll see. I mean, yeah, I'll admit that Brady's been a quote unquote luckier quarterback over his years, but needless to say, we'll move on. So Bucks today versus the Rams. First of all, I think there's going to be points in this one. Weather's not going to be a factor. You're going to you should see the Bucks offense play well today. They played well against Philly, who a bit of an overrated defense, sure, but they played well and moved the ball pretty well. And Brady usually has his guys ready offensively, so I'd expect good play from their offense. Look, let's be honest, the Rams offense. This is where I think it's different than the 49ers game, right? Because it is hard to imagine this game with conditions not bad at all, that this is going to be like a 7-3 game in the fourth quarter like it was yesterday, and even the game prior. But what do you make of it, right? So the Rams, of course, are like an all-star team, right? Especially on defense and even on offense, right? I mean, there's just tremendous amount of weapons all over the place, and you got McVay pulling the strings. But will they be prepared for this type of game? Will they be, will nerves click in? This is the biggest game of Matthew Stafford's career, by the way. And And you want to talk about guys that often piss down their leg. This dude down the stretch of the season made a tremendous amount of mistakes. Head scratching, wants to say the least. Most of his interceptions come when targeting Odell Beckham Jr. Forcing the ball up, and he's another one. Like he's when the game's not going his way or plays aren't going his way, he does some wild things with the football. So to me, the Rams' best recipe to winning this football game is, first of all, getting an early lead. That's going to be pretty critical because it puts a little less stress on your offense, a little less stress on Stafford to try to make extra plays. And then, of course, you can run the ball a little more effectively. It was impressive, for me to see Cam Akers run the ball as well as he did last week. Yeah, we're back on the macchiato bandwagon, dipshits. Needs to be mixed a little better. To me, of course, Cooper Kupp's going to get his. I mean, he gets his in every game, more or less anyway. But I think it's going to be all about what I've noticed with the Rams specifically was, man, do they run the play clock down? So the last few weeks, especially last week, it felt like every play they were out of the huddle with like 7 seconds left. I don't know if they were getting the play in late or if the strategy was we're just going to do our best to kill clock in this game. But against the Cardinals, every snap was with 1 or 2 seconds left on the play clock. And it's a pretty big deal because if the game changes dynamics here and now, Stafford expects to play a little more up-tempo, maybe if they go down or whatever, how quickly do the Rams react to that? Because it is pretty clear that McVay wants to run this offense very slow, methodical, almost like taking what the defense is giving and then, get the play call in accordingly. I'd be interested to see if the Bucs change things up defensively, mix things up because their pass defense is extremely susceptible. So interested to see how Stafford takes advantage of that. On the other end, look, you got Brady with some deterioration on his weapons. Obviously no Brown, no Godwin, but he still has continuity elsewhere, right? Tyler Johnson seems to be a guy Brady struggles with often. Johnson struggles with the drops, and Brady was adamantly frustrated with him last week. Will that change? We'll see. But Gronk, of course, is all reliable across the middle. Evans is reliable in every sense. I mean, Jalen Ramsey is going to be playing Evans, but if you guys have watched Ramsey play this year, the dude's taken a decent amount of chances. I know he's always been a risky corner in that sense, and he always gets his little mini tugs in on the jersey here and there that are hard to sift from a referee, no matter how close you are to it. He's just a very smart corner, and he could get in under Evans' skin, right? So Brady's job is to keep this offense in check and offense in flow. I think it's very likely, regardless, this game is going to be very close in the fourth quarter, 3 points or less, maybe 7 or less in the fourth quarter, where it is still winnable for both teams. It's hard to imagine any of these teams just blowing out the other, right? I mean, in reality, you're likely going to get a decent back and forth here. I don't – look, here's the problem, right? And this is kind of a problem with a lot of sports bettors. I think you might all be able to attest to, right? You had a certain way you handicapped the regular season that worked with a lot of efficiency or effectiveness anyway. And it is hard – after this 6-game sample that we've had or 7 or 8 game sample that we've had where things haven't worked for me personally to just kind of go a 180, right? So, we've watched these teams play all year. This total is fairly low, all things considered. But, am I not personally making enough of an adjustment for it to be the playoffs, right? And teams don't take as many risks in playoffs, which means we're not going to go for it at midfield on 4th and 1s. They're going to try to pin a team back. They're going to often take field goals whenever they can for points on the board, whereas maybe in the regular season, the games don't mean as much. So, what do you make of all that? And I'm not even just talking for myself. I'm talking people in general, right? Because, do you take the larger sample, which has been a success for you throughout the year, and do you make tweaks to it because of playoffs? Because what happens, right? You're going to regret things, right? You had a process that was working and things were streamlined, and then all of a sudden, because of playoffs or more high intensity games, you've tweaked your process a bit, and those bets are still hitting, and you're over here trying to outsmart yourself. That's been the enigma I've been in with some of these games. So I've loved some of these spots with underdog team totals over. And they have not come through in the playoffs by any means. Now, last week was a little different, right? Because all the chalk won and all the chalk covered in terms of favorites. And I say chalk, not to say the obvious picks. I just mean it to mean favorites because there was some dog love in some spots last week from the general consensus. But this game, like I said, to me, here's what I think. I think if the game is tied or the Bucs are down 3 in the fourth quarter, I'd feel very confident with the 2.5 I've laid with the Bucs. If Brady or if some plays cascade negatively against the Bucs, where this game gets a little out of hand, I will not feel very confident in Brady bringing this team back from down, say, 17, right? Or even 14 for that matter. Because the Rams are a tough team to come back against with a big lead. And we saw it with the Cardinals, right? Because they can really start sending extra guys to blitz. They can take more chances defensively in hopes to get another turnover. And they run the ball effectively, right? And it's tough to run the ball against the Bucs, sure. But I've said this before, the Bucs are not as elite as they've been in prior seasons defending the run. There's been a little more wiggle room there. Now, the Rams are missing some key components on the O-line, not even defensively. But the Bucs are missing, one of the best offensive linemen today. They will have the other one. I didn't necessarily see he was starting, but it did say he was active. I guess we'll find that out. Fournette is active. Again, you don't know if that means he's going to get like a bell cow's worth of carries. But here's what I know. If Fournette's 100%, that is a huge boost to Tom Brady. Brady loves him underneath. Despite how many passes Leonard Fournette drops, Brady just loves going to that well as much as he can. But again, you just don't know with these games, right? I mean, we saw with Kansas City last week where they were like, Darrell Williams is healthy and ready to go, and Jerick McKinnon started, and Darrell Williams barely played the game at all. So, is Fournette going to be one of those active, needed an emergency type guys, or is he going to start from onset? Is he going to be limited? Who knows? But I know that if you do get him at near 100% and he plays, say 70% of the running back snaps today, that is a huge boost for Brady. So, overall, we'll see how the game plays out. But I do really like the Bucs in this spot. Imagine I almost said the Patriots. And I'm not a big chalk guy. I think I've bet, and this is probably one of the main reasons why I've lost a decent amount of money. I've only bet on. Actually, I've bet no favorites against the spread this entire postseason. I've had some indirect derivatives relative to favorites, like I can't even think of one. So anyways, this is the first favorite I'm really betting on this entire playoffs. And this just has more to do with the Rams are on paper a better team, but how many times over Brady's career have the team he's been playing on paper been a better team? I mean, it's happened quite often. I just think Brady will have his guys ready, and I think Stafford at some point or some points in this game will shit his pants and make a few mistakes, and hopefully the Bucs can take advantage of them. But like the spot, and I think that you can even flirt with some same game parlays as well. But other than that, I guess we'll move on to Bills Chiefs. For me, so in this game, I'm going to give you guys my favorite prop of the game. And I'll talk through the game as well. So Buffalo's offense has been an absolute machine this season. Actually, let me type this in. The best bet, Bucs. The Bills offense has been an absolute machine. And I love that 5-6 weeks ago, people were like ruling this team out. Like before they played, like right after they played the Patriots in that frigid game with the win, people were just like ruling this team out and like, oh, this team's, barely going to even make the playoffs. And then they end up winning the division by winning out. And Allen and his offense has been tremendous. They're healthy. They're finally getting a decent run game with Singletary. Now, sure, they played the Chiefs earlier in the year. They played the Chiefs, though, while the Chiefs had the yips. If you guys remember that stretch Kansas City went through. And Kansas City also had the toughest schedule for the first 12 games of the year. I think out of any team I can even remember in recent memory, I mean, look at the teams they've played over the first 11, 12 weeks of the season. Like 7 or 8 of them were playoff teams. A few of them were still in the playoffs, like the Bills and the Packers were. So what do you make of it all? I think ultimately this Buffalo offense will move the football against Kansas City. The question that has to get answered is Kansas City has not lost a football game. And let me be more clear. Kansas City has not lost a critical football game when they've had a healthy offensive line. Okay. The AFC Championship last year, they lost 2 starting offensive linemen in that game that did not play in the Super Bowl. And if you don't believe that impacted that game at all, I mean, that side of between both sides of the O-line, Mahomes had absolutely no time to throw the football. I'm not sitting here making excuses for Pat Mahomes because it's not like he's been a perfect quarterback either. But here's a spot where Casey's offensive line is fully healthy. And yes, the Bills are coming in with a tremendous amount of momentum offensively. To me, the Bills' path to victory here, 30 burger. Okay, going to need 30 points to win this football game. I find it hard to believe the Kansas City Chiefs will not, get 3 or 4 touchdowns with a few field goals on the board today. Buffalo's defense has been good, but look at their strength of schedule. They've had one of the easiest schedules in the NFL. The Chiefs have had one of the hardest schedules in the NFL, yet their records were very similar. Records weren't similar. I mean, the Chiefs had a better record, right? Similar, but Chiefs still had a better record. Hence why they're hosting the playoff game. The interesting thing has been, right, and I'll mold this right into my pick. So Tyreek Hill, is he 100% healthy? Is he not? Here's what I know. I know that he is lined in this game. He is lined in this game at minus 105 to score a touchdown. This is a guy who week in and week out, I sound like what's his name, Chris Collinsworth now. Here's a guy. So ultimately, to me, that's got about almost 30 cents of value. Like Tyreek Hill in every week. Let me be more clear. Tyreek Hill in game scripts that expect to be Kansas City blowouts. I line Tyreek Hill at about minus 110 to score in those games. In games where Kansas City expects to be competitive, where there will be forced to throw to win the football game, I definitely line that at or around 135. He's minus 105 to score today. That is like a value hog for me. Yes, Tyreek Hill has not looked 100%. Yes, Tyreek Hill hasn't been playing 100% of snaps, but he's had a few more weeks to get healthy. And this week, you could almost guarantee he will have at least 2 to 3 red zone looks. This doesn't even excuse the fact of him housing like a 40-yard touchdown pass, or even better, or him taking a wide receiver screen to the house, or them giving him his own call on a rushing play near the goal line, to be creative. I look at a minus 105 line for Tyreek Hill to land in the box, and that's just filled with 30 cents of value at least. To me, it's a pure number play. I know Kelsey, I think, is higher than him, but overall, I don't. So in this game, Tyreek Hill to score, and that's minus 105. That was at FanDuel. I just to me, the opportunity is going to be there. Kansas City is going to need a ton of points to win today, in theory, at least. And to me, no matter what the game script is, it's not like the only way the game script is negative on us here is if the Chiefs get out to like a 3-touchdown lead. And let's be honest, if that happens, there's a chance Tyreek Hill scored one of those 3 touchdowns. So I just think this is a spot where Kansas City is in no position to sit on a lead. They're in no position to lay down or not take Buffalo seriously here. And Tyreek Hill is their best player. Now, Travis Kelce's had a bit of an up and down stretch. He's had an issue with the drops as well. But this is like a go time for Tyreek Hill. He hasn't had his typical huge game in a while. It's been quite some time. This is a tremendous spot for him and against Buffalo, especially if they happen to go down and then throwing more. It just means more. And I know some of these other guys for Kansas City have gotten more looks recently, right? Like Byron Pringle and Demarcus Robinson, McCole Hardman. Some of them have gotten a little more run recently, but that's been more because Tyreek Hill's been hobbled a bit. Seems like he should be good for this game in full and should probably barely leave the field. And again, with all the pressure in the world, the Chiefs expect to put on this Buffalo defense. I'd expect him to find some holes in it. And again, on the Buffalo side, I think you can look at various different angles here. I mean, Singletary could be a recipe for this team in terms of them doing their best to shorten the game if that's Buffalo's motive here. I just think I don't think Buffalo's going to try to shorten this game because I truly believe that Buffalo thinks they're better than Kansas City. And if that's the case, why would you try to shorten the game? I mean, Buffalo's offense is extremely efficient, so I just think both of these two are going to likely do their best to go toe-to-toe offensively. Which quarterback makes the least amount of mistakes? To me, this Buffalo team is going to have to overcome this hurdle at some point. Now, will it be tonight? Maybe. But this is a very sound offense, a very sound defense, and the big question mark is, of course, strength of schedule. Two of these teams have very, very polar opposite strength of schedules this year. And will that rain on here? And again, we can attribute them to playing earlier in the year. But again, I don't. That doesn't mean anything. What does that even mean? Kansas City played this team in the middle of their yips offensively. They've definitely found their stride to a certain extent offensively. Now, there are those people who could say Kansas City's just gotten off to slow starts recently. And that's fair. So people might like the Buffalo Bills first quarter, maybe, because the Buffalo has been a really fast starting team and Kansas City's kind of been the opposite recently. But boy, did TJ Watt seem to wake this team up last week with that defensive touchdown. So look, needless to say, I think this game should be a better one than the first one because it likely is more high scoring, likely. And it's definitely going to have more downfield shots in it for sure from both squads. Both teams are just two very explosive offenses with defenses that aren't, as good as the defenses in the game earlier. Needless to say, yeah, Tyreek Hill land in the box. I think it's a good spot. I think there's going to be, relatively, I know despite us having 2 lower scoring games yesterday, I do think we get 2 nice scoring games today. Obviously, it'll be a little colder in Kansas City than Tampa. And it's a very high total in Kansas City. So, but again, we've seen it with these playoff teams where, man, teams get to midfield and it's, 2nd and 3, false start, incomplete pass on 2nd and 8, 3rd and 8, incomplete pass, they gain 7, and then they punt, right? Which is a little different. And not to say it's different because you get similar things in the regular season. But regular season teams are more inept to pushing the ball offensively and going for it on 4th and shorts at midfield. I just don't know if you're going to get that. Now, the Buffalo game, these are 2 teams that love to take chances on 4th and short, so you might see a little more action there than you will in the earlier game today. But needless to say, what better time is it? You got Brady against, a tremendous team in the NFC and the Rams today, and then the Bills Chiefs. This is an AFC, this isn't the AFC Championship, but this is an AFC game a lot of people want to see. People wanted to see this in the AFC Championship, so we're actually getting this a week earlier. And, of course, the Bengals get to play one of them teams, and the 49ers get to play one of the NFC teams. 49ers have been an NFC darling all season with offense, and the Bengals, behind Joe Burrow and all those young weapons have been fun to watch, and they're 2 teams that have been fun to root for. So we'll see what happens, and how these games play out today and who they match up against. But should be fun stuff all around. I will mention one thing about same game parlays for people that do them. FanDuel specifically seems to have this weird. So let me be more clear on what I'm about to say. There are sports books that will give you these weird taxes on same game parlays. I'll give you an example. Like if you bet 2 teams, two players from the same team to score a touchdown, right? But you bet the opposite team to win the football game. Okay. In itself, if you bet that at most sports books, it's going to pay like 9 to 1, 9.5 to 1. Most of those types of bets. Okay. Whereas when you do it at FanDuel, specifically, FanDuel doesn't heavily tax that bet. So FanDuel typically pays those bets at I guess it depends on the odds, of course. But let's say you had 2 anytime touchdowns, right, at minus 110 on any team. Like let's say the Bucks Chiefs, Bills, right? So let's say you took 2 anytime touchdowns for the Bills, but then bet the Chiefs money line. Okay. Most sports books, that's going to be about minus 1. That's going to be about 9 to 1. Okay. FanDuel, that bet is usually like 12 to 1, 13 to 1. So just keep in mind that when you do same game parlays, don't marry yourself to a certain sports book, because at the end of the day, these sports books do have proprietary algorithms, or at least semi-proprietary algorithms, that will impact the odds that shoot out from those parlays. And at the end of the day, if you're going to make parlays anyway, which are almost inevitably minus EV, the best thing you can do for yourself is get yourself the best odds. So if you like a certain same game parlay, or you want to really, pound props together with derivatives and the spread, measure that parlay up against multiple sports books. Don't marry yourself to one of them so you can get the best odds. I find it almost comical that people will stay at the same book. Like maybe it's always FanDuel, maybe it's always DraftKings, maybe it's always MGM or Barstool, whatever. But use them all. Use them all to leverage, the best odds on your bet. Yeah, sure, it might not matter with 1 or 2 bets that lose, sure, but when the bet wins and the bet would have paid 4 times more than what you got on odds, how does that make any sense? Make sure you're always getting the best number and always leveraging it. It's the same thing with any market. Same thing in stock. It doesn't matter. You're looking for value. You're looking for value in life. Forget sports betting. So always use that to your advantage as best you can. And just a little tidbit there for you guys. All right, so that'll wrap it up. Unless you guys have any other questions on props or derivatives or anything like that, I think I saw any thoughts on teaser options. I'm sure today, just based on the numbers and the key numbers that they're sitting at, I would assume today would be a pretty chalky dog teaser that would come in, right? Because you could take the Bucks to 8.5 or 9, and you can take the Bills to 7.5 or 8. So it moves you through all the key numbers, which would be Wong relevant, right? From a Wong teaser. I'm not saying it can't hit. I just the playoffs is just different for teasers, right? I don't love doing teasers in the playoffs because teams approach playoff games differently. Not that they don't play to win, or not that they don't play to keep it to one score, but the approach is always different. Okay, when you bet a teaser like that, you almost want your team, you almost want the team you're betting to do their best to keep it within one score. And I know it sounds obvious, but the problem is in playoff games, decision making just changes from how it would in the regular season. You will at times take less risk than you normally would, and you would at times take more risk than you normally would. That impacts how close a game ends or not. Okay, so teasers aren't ideal in the playoffs, but look, it is a juicy spot. The idea that you'll get eight or 8.5 with the Rams and 8-ish with the Bills, it's not, can't front that at all. So I think that I just think that I've been bitten in the playoffs before with teasers, more or less because of inverted game flows, whereas the game just doesn't, the decision making doesn't play out the same as it does in the regular season, and it does impact the way these spreads go. Like, to me, in my opinion, you like a team, just bet them. I mean, to tease them in the playoffs for the extra protection, because remember, when you win a teaser, okay, the only way the teaser, quote unquote, in itself makes sense would be if both teams middled you there, right? In theory, right? Because in essence, you could have bet one of the games on the money line or one of the games straight up, and if they covered or won outright, you didn't need the teaser to begin with. You're betting the teaser to give yourself a little more insurance. Okay, so I just, to me, you like teams today, bet them on the money line, bet them outright, bet them plus the points, doesn't matter. To the teasing of both teams, you really need one of them to fall in between that magic number of 3 and 7, and it very well could, but that hasn't been the case thus far in the playoffs. With teasers falling in that direction. I mean, your 49ers and Bengals both won outright yesterday, so you didn't have to tease them anyway. Your favorites last week, I don't think there was a favorite that would have covered a teaser last week. I think the favorites all won by large amounts last week. I could be wrong. Needless to say, I know it's a small sample regardless, but just letting you know. You will see some interesting things in these games that will tilt you to no end when you have a teaser. It'll tilt you on the end of, I just should have bet them on the money line, or it'll tilt you on the end of, I should never bet this teaser to begin with because this team sucks, as an example. Favorite touchdown prop today, Tyreek Hill, -105. And I want to be clear, like, you might hear other people say, like, I love this guy to score today, or I love, this guy to catch 80 yards today, so bet his receiving prop over. Remember, guys, you're betting for value, right? You're finding value as best you can, whether that's with an under or an over or a touchdown prop, whatever. You're looking for value, okay? So nobody knows for sure if somebody's going to score. Nobody knows for sure if somebody's going to go over the receiving number, right? But at the end of the day, you're looking for value. You're projecting games, and you're, whatever you have, whether you have models, algorithms, or even if you're just an eye test individual who watches sports and makes bets that way. You're looking for value in numbers and in spots. And for me, Tyreek Hill 105 to score, that holds a lot of value, because to me, he should be about $1.35, $1.40 in this spot. And it's about, 30, 35 cents of value on my end. So that's where my take is there. But needless to say, thanks as always, guys, for popping in. We did this show pretty quickly, right? 30 minutes or less. Did it with the clown gear, right? Because I haven't been seeing the board very clearly. So in that respect, you can just kind of fade me if you'd like. Aaron, I will have some Australian Open content with spread this week. I don't have a pick for today, personally. Oh, you know what? Maybe I could. Hold on. I'm not going to look at the games. I know my dad emailed me some things he's on. So let me see if he gave anything. You know what? I don't know how live this number is. He did like Elise Mertens tonight. I don't know what time that match is. Let me just see real quick. Elise Mertens is a small underdog tonight. Yeah, that match is at 7:00. I don't have the odds in front of me. I guess I can get them. But he does like Elise Mertens versus Danielle Collins in the women's end for the Australian Open. Plus 120. That's what I'm seeing here. So take that for what it's worth, folks. But yes, I will have more content throughout the week. I'll be debuting the college basketball content this week, so I'll have a few vids there. And then, of course, I'll have some vids on the NFC and AFC Championship as well, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, expect some college basketball stuff and maybe even a tennis vid or two from me and Spread this week as well. But needless to say, thanks as always for watching, folks. And look, today, above all else, gamble responsibly. No need to lose your shirt on the NFL, especially not on the NFL. Hold true to your process. If you had a few bad weeks or bad games, whatever, just scratch, dust the shoulder off and continue to make valuable bets and stay within your means, of course, as always, because you don't want to, that could always tilt you, of course, as well. So, but thanks as always, folks, for watching. Thanks for being active in the chat. And let's make some money today. Gamble responsibly, stay safe. And as always, run pure. I'll catch you guys next time.